The AgustaWestland AW101 is a medium-lift helicopter used in both military and civil applications. It was developed by joint venture between Westland Helicopters in the UK and Agusta in Italy in response to national requirements for a modern naval utility helicopter. Until 2007, the aircraft had been marketed under the designation AH-101. Several operators, including the Armed Forces of Britain, Denmark and Portugal, use the name Merlin for their AW101 aircraft. It is manufactured at factories in Yeovil, England and Vergiate, Italy. Licensed assembly work has also taken place in Japan and the United States. In 2000, Westland Helicopters and Agusta merged to form AgustaWestland, leading to the type's redesignation as AW101. The AW101 first flew in 1987, and entered into service in 1999. Since the AW101's introduction, it has replaced several older helicopter types such as the Sikorsky S-61, performing roles such as medium-sized transport, anti-submarine warfare, and ship-based utility operations. The Royal Canadian Air Force operates a variant of the AW101, designated CH-149 Cormorant, in the air-sea rescue role. Another variant, designated VH-71 Kestrel, was developed to serve in the U.S. presidential transport fleet, however the program was cancelled. Civil operators also use AW101s in roles such as passenger and VIP transportation. The type has been deployed to active combat theaters, such as in support of coalition forces during the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan. Development, origins: in 1977, the UK Ministry of Defence issued a requirement for an anti-submarine warfare helicopter to replace the Royal Navy's Westland Sea Kings, which were becoming inadequate in the face of advances in Soviet submarine technology. Westland Helicopters put together a proposal, designated WG-34, for a three-engined helicopter of similar dimensions to the Sea King. The WG-34 was to feature more autonomy and a greater range than its predecessor. At the same time, the Italian Navy was also considering the replacement of its fleet of Sea Kings built by the Italian company Agusta. Westland and Agusta soon began talks regarding joint development of a successor helicopter. Agusta and Westland finalized an agreement to work on the project together, and formed a jointly owned new company, EH Industries Limited, to pursue the development and marketing of the new helicopter to potential operators. On June 12, 1981, the UK government confirmed its participation in the project, allocated an initial budget of £20 million to develop 9 pre-series examples. A major agreement, which secured funding for the majority of the EH-101's development programme, was signed by both the British and Italian governments in 1984. At the 1985 Paris Air Show, Agusta showed a mock-up of a utility version of the new helicopter, leading to a more generalized design that could be customized to meet the needs of various civilian or military customers. The first prototype flew on October 9, 1987. In 1987, Canada had selected the EH-101 to replace their Sea Kings in anti-submarine warfare and search and rescue roles. The EH-101's third engine and increased autonomy compared favorably against rivals such as the Sikorsky S-61. Its range and de-icing capability were also seen as vital for North Atlantic operations. The fledgling EH-101, of which up to 50 were on order to replace the Canadian Armed Forces' Sea Kings, found itself subject to a wider political battle between the Conservative and Liberal parties, the latter viewing the aircraft as too costly. Critics attacked the EH-101 purchase as excessive and unnecessary after the Cold War's end in the early 1990s. Wide-ranging cost estimates were presented by both proponents and opponents of the EH-101 procurement, with opponents backing life extensions of Sikorsky CH-124 Sea King and Boeing Vertol CH-113 Labrador helicopter fleets. The EH-101 controversy was seen as a factor in the 1993 Canadian federal election. The order was cancelled by the new Liberal government in 1993, resulting in a $470 million cancellation fee. Into production, several pre-production aircraft were assembled during the late 1980s and early 1990s. Flight tests were suspended for 6 months following the crash of the second pre-production aircraft on January 21, 1993. On June 6, 1993, the first DH-101 flew with the Rolls-Royce Turbo-Meca RTM322 turboshaft engine. 9 prototypes were built to explore military and civil applications, including a heliliner configuration. In February 1995, Britain formally placed its first order for a total of 22 EH-101s. This was quickly followed by Italy's order for 16 EH-101s in October 1995. The EH-101 order was not without controversy. The RAF had declared its preference for an all-Chinook fleet. Also, Boeing allegedly offered cheaper terms for the Chinook. In 1997, RAF deliveries began. RM deliveries started the following year. In 2005, a team of AgustaWestland and Lockheed Martin was selected as the winners of the US VXX competition to replace the President's Marine I helicopters of the United States Marine Corps. A variant of the AW101, designated VH-71 Kestrel, was to be manufactured domestically and had proceeded into the flight testing stages. However, the program encountered significant cost overruns and political opposition, which led to the procurement being scrapped in June 2009. Separately, the Marine Corps had also conducted studies into the adoption of the EH-101 as a fallback option to the Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey tiltrotor during the 1990s. Following the merger of Westland and Agusta to form AgustaWestland in 2000, there was no need for the separate EHI entity. The EH-101 was formally rebranded as the AW101 in 2007. In 2008, the volume of AW101 orders was reported as having filled production capacity in excess of the following 5 years. By April 2009, more than 180 AW101s had been sold worldwide. The combined operational fleet had also accumulated a total of 170,000 flying hours. Further developments: in November 2007, Algeria signed a contract for 6 AW101 helicopters. In August 2012, it was reported that Algeria has signed an agreement with AgustaWestland for the provision of up to 80 helicopters, 42 of which were to be AW101s. Under the terms of this arrangement, early aircraft were to be manufactured by AgustaWestland, while Algeria was to commence the assembly of some AW101s later on. The AW101 was a candidate in the Norwegian all-weather search and rescue helicopter program to replace the Royal Norwegian Air Force's Westland Sea King Mk-43B helicopter fleet. Other candidates included Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey, Eurocopter EC-225, Industries NH-90, and Sikorsky S-62. Iceland cooperated with Norway on the program and was to buy 3 Euro-4 helicopters to replace its Super Puma helicopters, but withdrew in 2012 due to limited finances. The AW101 was selected in November 2013. On June 7, 2010, it was announced that Boeing had acquired a manufacturing license and the rights from AgustaWestland for U.S. production of a localized AW101 variant, designated as the Boeing 101. In October 2012, the AW101 was submitted in a U.S. Air Force competition to replace the HH-60 Pave Hawk. However, the bid was dropped 3 months later. In September 2013, AgustaWestland was reportedly in the process of acquiring new civil certification for the AW101. Target customers include long-range offshore oil platform transport operators and VIP clients. As of February 2014, AgustaWestland was considering adapting the AW101 as a heavyweight unmanned aerial vehicle. It is proposed that in this configuration an AW101 could be optionally manned. Design Overview. The AW101 Merlin follows a conventional design layout but makes use of advanced technologies such as the design of the rotor blades, avionics systems, and the extensive use of composite materials. The fuselage structure is modular and comprises an aluminium-lithium alloy, designed to be both light and damage-resistant. The AW101 is designed for operating in extreme weather conditions. It is fitted with a de-icing system and rated to operate in temperatures ranging between a 45 to plus 50 AA degrees Celsius. The aircraft's control systems allow the AW101 to maintain a stable hover in 74 km/h crosswinds. An active vibration control system, known as the Active Control of Structural Response System, reduces airframe vibration by up to 80%, which increases crew comfort and minimizes the buildup of stress on the airframe. The cockpit is fitted with armored seats for the crew, and can withstand an impact velocity of over 10 ams. Dual flight controls are provided, though the AW101 can be flown by a single person. The pilot's instrument displays include 6 full-color high-definition screens and an optional mission display. A digital map or forward-looking infrared display can also be installed. Propulsion. The AW101 is powered by 3 turboshaft engines. 2 different types of engines available for operators, the Rolls-Royce Turbo-Meca RTM322 used by the UK, Japan, Denmark and Portugal, or the General Electric Court 7 used by Italy, Canada, and Japan. The Rolls-Royce RTM322 engine was specifically developed for the AW101. It was subsequently adopted on the WA-64 Apache and then Industria's NH-90 helicopters. About 80% of AW101s use the RTM322 power plant, according to Rolls-Royce. The engines power an 18.59-meter diameter 5-bladed main rotor. The rotor blades are constructed from carbon glass with Nomex honeycomb and Ruicell foam, edged with titanium alloy in a sandwich construction. The shaping of the main rotor blades is derived from the BERP rotor blades first used on the Westland Lynx. This blade design improves aerodynamic efficiency at the blade tip and reduces the noise signature. Improved BERP-4 rotors have since been developed. When installed, this increases the AW101's maximum takeoff weight. Each engine is supplied by a separate 1,074-liter fuel tank using dual booster pumps. Optional 4th and 5th tanks can be added to act as a reservoir supply, topping up the main tanks during flight, increasing range or endurance. The AW101 can also be outfitted with a probe for aerial refueling. Self-sealing fuel tanks are an optional item to be selected by the customer. An inlet particle separator system can be installed, protecting the engine when operating in sandy environments. Armament and defensive systems. Most variants of the AW101 are equipped with self-defense systems such as chaff and flare dispensers, directed infrared countermeasures, ESM, and a laser detection and warning system. British Merlins have been outfitted with protective armoring against small arms fire. A chin-mounted forward-looking infrared imaging sensor has been fitted to some variants. 2 hardpoints are present on the underside of the airframe on which the HM1 model can carry 4 Stingray torpedoes or Mk11 Mod 3 depth charges. Some customers have chosen to deploy the MART anti-ship missile on the AW101. As of 2011, the Royal Navy is considering equipping their Merlin fleet with an anti-surface missile. The Mk1, Mk3 and Mk3A variants can mount general-purpose machine guns in up to 5 locations in the main cabin, aimed out of both door and window apertures. AgustaWestland has examined the integration of rockets and additional ground attack weapons. Avionics, Westland and IBM formed a consortium in 1991 to perform the helicopter's complex systems integration. The AW101 features a network of helicopter management and mission systems designed to reduce pilot workload and enable the helicopter to undertake a wide variety of missions. A digital automatic flight control system is employed by the AW101. The AFCS allows the operation of a 4-axis autopilot and the automatic stabilization system, and is linked in with the aircraft's flight management systems. The AFCS, manufactured by Smiths Aerospace, is a dual duplex system using 2 flight computers to provide redundancy and fault tolerance. The AW101's navigation system includes a GPS receiver and inertial navigation system, VHF omnidirectional radio range, instrument landing system, TACAN, and automatic direction finding. The Mk1 and Mk3 are equipped with a Doppler velocity system which provides relative ground velocities. The DVS is also linked into the AFCS as part of the auto-stabilization system. For safety, the aircraft is equipped with obstacle and terrain avoidance warning systems, traffic collision avoidance system, and both voice and flight data recorders. The AW101 is equipped with a Blue Kestrel search and detection radar which is capable of 360-degree scanning and can detect small targets as far as 25 nautical miles. As part of the Royal Navy's Merlin HM2 upgrade program, Lockheed Martin implemented a series of improvements to the radar, notably allowing it to track 40 times the number of targets previously capable. Danish EH-101s are fitted with the RDR 1600 search and weather radar. Royal Navy Merlins are equipped with the AgustaWestland anti-submarine system for processing sonographic data from sonobuoys to detect and target submerged submarines. The AgustaWestland was derived from the system on the earlier Hawker Siddeley Nimrod maritime patrol aircraft. Crew and cargo: the AW101 is typically operated by a crew of 3, a pilot, an observer, and a crewman operator. The pilot is able to fly for the majority of a mission in a hands-off mode, enabled by the sophisticated autopilot. All crew members have individual access to management computers and tactical information. The fuselage has a volume of 31.91 cubic meters and the cargo compartment is 6.5 meters in length, 2.3 meters wide and 1.91 meters high. The military version of the AW101 can accommodate up to 24 seated or 45 standing combat troops and their equipment. Alternative loads include a medical team and 16 stretchers, and cargo pallets. The ramp, 1.91 by 2.3 meters, can take a 3,050 kilogram load, allowing it to carry vehicles such as Land Rovers. The ramp and cabin floor are fitted with flush tie-down points. A cargo hook under the fuselage can carry external loads of 5,440 kilograms via the use of a semi-automatic cargo release unit. A rescue hoist and a hover trim controller are fitted at the cargo door. An optional cargo winch can be installed near to the rear ramp. Operational history: Royal Navy. The RN's final order was for 44 ASW aircraft, originally designated Merlin HAS-1 but soon changed to Merlin HM1. The first fully operational Merlin was delivered on May 17, 1997, entering service on June 2, 2000. All aircraft were delivered by the end of 2002, and are operated by 4 Fleet Air Arm Squadrons, 814 NAS, 820 NAS, 824 NAS and 829 NAS, all based at RNAS Culdrose in Cornwall. 700 NAS was the Merlin Operational Evaluation Unit from 2000 to 2008. In March 2004, Navy Merlins were temporarily grounded following an incident at RNAS Culdrose in which a tail rotor failed due to a manufacturing defect. An improved tail rotor was designed and adopted on most AW101s. According to AgustaWestland, the redesigned rotor also significantly reduced associated maintenance. The Merlin HM1 has been cleared to operate from the Royal Navy's aircraft carriers, amphibious assault ships, Type 23 frigates and several Royal Fleet auxiliary vessels including the Fort Victoria class. It is also to equip the Type 45 destroyer. 30 aircraft are being upgraded to Merlin HM2 standard under the £750 million Merlin Capabilities Sustainment Programme which runs to 2015. The HM2 has a new mission system, digital cockpit, electro-optical camera and multi-static processing for the sonar system. The HM2 performed its first shipborne test flight in September 2012 and achieved IOC on June 30, 2014. After 9 HM2 had flown 480 hours from Illustrious during exercise Deep Blue earlier that month. At the same time it was reported that some of the 8 airframes not previously scheduled to get the upgrade for financial reasons, may now be updated. 5 of the 30 HM2 will be in maintenance at any one time, leaving 25 available at readiness, of which 14 will be assigned to the new Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carrier. In addition to its anti-submarine role, the HM2 will be able to carry an airborne early warning pod under procurement through the Crow's Nest program to replace the Sea King AS-AC-7. In September 2011, Thales UK proposed reusing Sea King AS-AC-7 equipment, such as the Tsar Quarter 2000, on the Merlin. Lockheed Martin has proposed developing a new multifunctional sensor for either the AW101 or other aircraft. Lockheed originally planned to use a derivative of the F-35's APG-81 radar but is now believed to be using an ELTA system. Both it and the Thales system will begin flight trials in the summer of 2014 with main gate in 2016. 10 pods are planned with IOC in 2019. On December 15, 2009, plans were announced to transfer RAF Merlin HC-3S and HC-3S to the Commando Helicopter Force to replace retiring Sea King HC-4 helicopters. The Sea King is to retire in 2016, after which the Navy will operate a combination of the Wildcat and Merlin. It is intended that 846 NAS will reform with ex-RAF Merlin HC-3S in 2015. 845 NAS will follow in 2017, operating the fully navalized Merlin HC-4. In 1995, it was announced the Navy's Westland Lynx helicopters would be retired in favor of an all-Merlin fleet. However, the subsequent 2010 SDS has stated the future naval helicopters to be the Merlin and the Wildcat, a derivative of the Lynx. Royal Navy Merlins have seen action in the Caribbean, on counter-narcotics and hurricane support duties, as well as maritime security duties in the Persian Gulf. Merlins have also seen active duty in Iraq, providing support to British and coalition forces based in the region. Royal Air Force. The RAF ordered 22 transport helicopters designated Merlin HC-3, the first of which entered service in January 2001 with No. 28 Squadron RAF based at RAF Benson. The type is equipped with extended-range fuel tanks and is capable of air-to-air refueling. However, as of 2012, aerial refueling has not entered operational usage. The Merlin is frequently utilized for troop transport duties and for the transport of bulky objects either internally or underslung, including vehicles and artillery. Depth maintenance of the Merlin HC-3 is carried out at the Merlin Depth Maintenance Facility at RNAS Culdrose. The Merlin's first operational deployment was to the Balkans region in 2003. RAF Merlins were first deployed to Iraq as part of Operation Telic in 2004, supporting coalition forces and were operated as the main medevac asset in southern Iraq. Both Flight Lieutenant Kev Harris and Flight Lieutenant Michelle Goodman were awarded the DFC during this period. Merlins routinely operated around Basra until Britain's withdrawal in June 2009. In 2002, Westland made an unsuccessful unsolicited offer to the British Ministry of Defence, proposing an enhanced Merlin variant intended to satisfy the demand for additional lift capacity. An alternative measure was the acquisition of 6 AW101s from Denmark in 2007. Designated Merlin HC-3A, these were assigned to the RAF, allowing Merlins to be deployed in Afghanistan. The HC-3A is used for training and not for frontline operations due to various configuration differences. In December 2007, a second Merlin squadron, No. 78 Squadron, was formed at Benson. In 2009, 5 Merlin Mk3s were operating in Afghanistan, transporting troops and supplies. The deployment to Afghanistan was criticized as the aircraft reportedly lacked protective Kevlar armor. By July 2010, the Merlin fleet was fully fitted with ballistic armor. The deployment of Merlins to Afghanistan allowed the detachment of Sea Kings to be withdrawn from the region in October 2011. As part of the UK drawdown in Afghanistan, Merlins were withdrawn from theatre in June 2013. In 2012, RAF Merlins began the transition process over the Royal Navy's Commando Helicopter Force, due to be finalised by 2016 after modifications for extended maritime operations. Royal Navy personnel worked alongside the Royal Air Force at RAF Benson to build experience before the fleet is handed over to the Commando Helicopter Force. A £454 million Merlin Life Sustainment Programme will see 25 HC-3/HC-3A airframes fitted with the cockpit electronics of the HM2, folding tails and main rotor heads, strengthened landing gear, deck lashing mounting points, obsolescence updates, fast roping points and a common emergency egress system. The first HC-4 will begin flight trials in September 2017 with IOC in early 2018. An interim folding main rotor head will be fitted to some HC-3 for ship-in operations prior to the HC-4 upgrade. Italian Navy. In 1997, the Italian government ordered 20 EH-101 helicopters with 4 options for the Italian Navy. These EH-101s included 10 of the anti-surface submarine version, 4 airborne early warning, 4 utility, and 4 amphibious support helicopters. As of June 2011, the AW101 has also been chosen to meet an Italian Air Force requirement for up to 12 helicopters in the combat search and rescue role to replace several aging Sea King HH-3F. Deliveries are expected from 2014 onwards. The first Italian Navy production helicopter flew on October 4, 1999 and was officially presented to the press on December 6, 1999. Italy accepted delivery of the 21st AW101, configured for anti-submarine warfare, on August 4, 2009. Italian EH-101s have operated from a variety of ships and have seen service overseas. In 2009 the Italian Navy used its AW101 fleet as executive transports for visiting heads of state and officials during the 35th G8 summit. In 2010, the Italian Navy deployed 3 AW101s to Afghanistan where they were flown in both the transport and utility roles. In 2011, it was reported that the Italian contingent in Afghanistan, consisting of AW101s, had been providing coverage of a wide area of the country. Royal Canadian Air Force. In 1997, in light of the declining condition of its helicopter fleet, Canada launched the Canadian Search and Rescue Helicopter Competition. It was won by the EH-101 which was designated CH-149 Cormorant in Canadian service. In 2004, the EH-101 was entered into a Canadian competition to replace the shipboard Sea King fleet, but the Sikorsky CH-148 Cyclone was selected. In 2013, following difficulties with the CH-148 procurement, the Royal Canadian Air Force was reported to be seriously considering cancelling the contract with Sikorsky and was investigating the possibility of procuring the AW101 instead. Royal Danish Air Force. In 2001, the Royal Danish Air Force announced the purchase of 8 EH-101s for SAR duties and 6 tactical troop transports for 722 Squadron. The last of the 14 AW101s was delivered in March 2007 and the first SAR AW101s became operational out of Karup Airport in April 2007. In 2007, the 6 troop transport AW101s were transferred to the British MOD. In exchange, the British government ordered 6 new-build AW101s as replacements for the RDAF. Danish AW101s have a higher gross weight capacity of 15,600 kg and were, as delivered, coated in a paint designed to reduce the aircraft's infrared signature. In the SAR role, RDAF AW101s have a crew of 6 and were initially painted yellow to distinguish themselves from AW101 allocated to military duties, but were later painted green, and all 14 AW101s are used for SAR and troop transport. On January 28, 2008, the drive shaft of a Danish AW101 broke, leading to an emergency landing at Billund Airport. Following the incident, the Danish fleet was grounded as a precaution. The AW101's future was publicly debated. In the first 6 months of 2008, the RDAF reported an operational availability of roughly 50%, well below the target of 80%, partly due to inadequate maintenance organization and staff shortages. In January 2011, the Danish Ministry of Defence reportedly could not afford the retrofitting of the AW101 fleet for Afghanistan operations, against earlier reports of a deployment in 2012. In February 2013, Aviation Week reported that earlier reliability issues had been resolved and that a full upgrade package would be applied to Danish AW101s. These included the addition of electronic warfare pods and a new electro-optical system, in advance of a deployment in Afghanistan in 2014. In September 2013, Danish AW101s were to receive L3 Skam MX-15 electro-optical infrared sensors. SAR aircraft already carry the FLIR Systems Star Sapphire 2 EOIR sensor. Portuguese Air Force. The Portuguese Air Force had purchased a total of 12 Merlins under a $446 million contract, the first of which was delivered in February 24, 2005. The type has been used to conduct transport, search and rescue, and maritime surveillance missions, progressively replacing the copyright Rospartiel Puma previously tasked with these missions. The main role of Portuguese AW101s is to perform search and rescue missions within Portugal's maritime zone. They are operated by the 751 Squadron and are kept on constant alert at three bases, Montijo near Lisbon, Lajes Field on the Azores, and Porto Santo Island. Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force. The Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force ordered 14 aircraft in 2003 to use in both the airborne mine countermeasures and transport roles. The AW101 was modified by Kawasaki Heavy Industries, and the Japan Defense Agency designated the model MCH-101. Special features of the MCH-101 include the automated folding of the rotor and tail. The MCH-101 has also been outfitted with Northrop Grumman's AQS-24A for the mine-hunting role. In 2002, AgustaWestland, Kawasaki and Marubeni entered a general agreement for cooperation. Kawasaki began the assembly of both the CH-101 and the MCH-101 in 2003. Kawasaki also began licensed production of the RTM322 engines in 2005. In a separate agreement between Marubeni and AgustaWestland, a supply depot was established in Japan to support the MCH-101 and CH-101 fleets. The first MCH-101 was delivered to the JMSDF on March 3, 2006. The MCH-101 will replace the MH-53E in the AMCM role. The CH-101 will operate in the transport support role for Antarctic missions, replacing the Sikorsky S-61A, and will be working in coordination with the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology. VIP and other usage. AgustaWestland developed a specialized luxury variant, the AW101 VVIP, aimed at business and VIP customers. As of April 2009, 15% of all AW101s sold were for VIP purposes. Customers operating the VIP variant include Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Nigeria and Turkmenistan. The AW101 was being acquired by the United States Marine Corps under the VXX program as a replacement for the Presidential Marine I helicopters. Designated VH-71 Kestrel, the variant was heavily customized and equipped with various self-defense systems. However, in 2009 the VH-71 procurement was abruptly terminated following the withdrawal of funding. In 2010, Boeing considered an AW101 submission in the restarted VXX program. In April 2009, India ordered 12 AW101 to serve as executive transport helicopters for the Indian President and Prime Minister. The selection followed field trial assessments between the AW101 and the Sikorsky S-92 held in 2008. However, the procurement was put on hold and subsequently cancelled due to the 2013 Indian helicopter bribery scandal, in which Finmeccanica, AgustaWestland's parent company, had allegedly used bribes to win the contract. The 3 helicopters delivered as part of the contract may be returned to the manufacturer as part of the arbitration process. Variants, pre-production, PP1 a Westland-built basic air vehicle prototype, first flown October 9, 1987. PP2 a Euro Augusta-built Italian basic air vehicle prototype first flown on November 26, 1987 and used for deck trials but was destroyed on January 21, 1993 following a rotor brake malfunction. PP3 a Euro Westland-built and the first civil-configured heliliner, used for engine vibration tests and icing trials in Canada. PP4 a Euro Westland-built British naval prototype, lost in an accident on April 7, 1995 after a drivetrain control rod failure. PP5 a Euro Westland-built Merlin development aircraft eventually equipped with Merlin avionics. PP6 a Euro Augusta-built development aircraft for Italian Navy variant first flown April 26, 1989. PP7 a Euro Augusta-built military utility aircraft with rear loading ramp. PP8 a Euro Westland-built civil prototype. PP9 a Euro Augusta-built military utility prototype with rear loading ramp. Model 110, Italian Navy ASW variant, 8 built. Powered by T700 GET6A1 engines. Fitted with a Lyradar APS-784 radar and Honeywell Helras dipping sonar. Armed with torpedoes or MART anti-ship missiles. Model 111, Royal Navy ASW variant, designated Merlin HM1 by customer. Powered by RTM322 engines and fitted with Blue Kestrel radar, Thomson Marconi flash dipping sonar and Orange Reaper ESM. 44 built. Model 112, Italian Navy early warning variant with same airframe as Model 110 but with a Lyradar HEW784 radar in large under fuselage radome. 4 built. Series 200, proposed military utility version with no rear loading RANP. Series 300 heliliner, proposed civil transport with no ramp. In 2000, British International Helicopters conducted service trials using PP8. These did not lead to a commercial service. Series 310, proposed version of heliliner with full airline avionics for operation from oil platforms. No production. Model 410, Italian Navy transport variant with folding rotors and tail boom. 4 built. Model 411, Royal Air Force transport variant, designated Merlin HC3 by customer, 22 built. Model 413, Italian Navy Special Forces and amphibious assault transport with more advanced avionics. Model 500, proposed civil utility variant with rear ramp. Model 510, civil utility variant with rear ramp, 2 built. 1 used for Tokyo Metropolitan Police Agency and 1 used to support US 101 bid. Model 511, Canadian Forces Search and Rescue variant, designated CH-149 Cormorant by customer, 15 built. Model 512, Merlin Joint Supporter for Royal Danish Air Force. 8 acquired for search and rescue and 6 for tactical transport. The 6 transports were sold to RAF and replaced by 6 new-build Merlins. Model 514, Portuguese Air Force Search and Rescue variant, 6 built. Model 515, Portuguese Air Force Fisheries Protection variant, 2 built. Model 516, Portuguese Air Force Combat Search and Rescue variant, 4 built. Model 518, Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force Mine Countermeasures and Transport variant, 2 built. Model 519, Presidential Transport variant for the United States Marine Corps as the VH-71 Kestrel, 4 test vehicles and 5 pilot production aircraft built. Model 612, Norwegian Air Force Search and Rescue variant, 16 ordered with option for 6 more, Merlin HM1, Royal Navy designation for the Model 111. Merlin HM2, avionics retrofit of 30 HM1s for the Royal Navy. Merlin HC3, Royal Air Force designation for the Model 411. Merlin HC3A, Royal Air Force designation for 6 former Royal Danish Air Force Model 512s modified to UK standards. Merlin HC3I, Royal Navy will fit 7 HC3 with folding rotor heads as an interim measure until the full HC4 upgrade is available. Merlin HC4/4A, planned conversion of 25 RAF HC3/3A for RN use. HM2 cockpit, folding tail blades and other adaptations for naval use. Merlin ASAC-5, planned conversion of 8 RN HM1 for use in carrier-based airborne early warning role. CH-148 Petrel, ship-based anti-submarine helicopter for Canada. 35 originally ordered by the Canadian Forces, reduced to 28 and cancelled in 1993. CH-149 Chimo, search and rescue helicopter for Canada. 15 ordered by the Canadian Forces, but later cancelled. CH-149 Cormorant, search and rescue helicopter for Canada, 15 ordered and delivered. Lockheed Martin VH-71 Kestrel, cancelled USMC variant that was intended to serve as the U.S. presidential helicopter. SH-101A, Italian military designation from 2012 for the MP variant. EH-101A, Italian military designation from 2012 for the AEW variant. UH-101A, Italian military designation from 2012 for the ASH variant. HH-101A, Italian military designation for the CSAR variant. Operators. Military operators, Algeria, Algerian Air Force, Algerian Navy, a Canada, Royal Canadian Air Force, a Denmark, Royal Danish Air Force, a India, Indian Air Force, 3 delivered out of 12 originally ordered. May be returned to manufacturer due to the 2013 Indian helicopter bribery scandal. An Italy, Italian Navy, Italian Air Force, a Japan, Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, a Norway, Royal Norwegian Air Force, a Portugal, Portuguese Air Force, a Saudi Arabia, Saudi Air Force, a Turkmenistan, Turkmenistan Air Force, a United Kingdom, Royal Navy, Royal Air Force, law enforcement operators, a Japan, Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, notable accidents and incidents. January 21, 1993 a Euro-Italian development Merlin PP-2 crashed near Novacamere airfield in Italy after an uncommanded application of the rotor brake in flight. 4 people were killed. April 7, 1995 a Euro-British development Merlin PP-4 crashed while in flight from Yeovil, England. All 4 crew members escaped the helicopter during its descent before it hit the ground. August 20, 1996 a Euro-Italian development Merlin PP-7 was damaged in an accident when it turned over after the tail rotor drive failed on landing. The helicopter was repaired. October 27, 2000 a Euro Royal Navy Merlin ditched near the Isle of Skye, Scotland after a hydraulic fire caused by the rotor brake being partially engaged. March 30, 2004 a Euro Royal Navy Merlin crashed on takeoff from RNAS Culdrose due to tail rotor hub cracking. November 15, 2007 a Euro during embarkation for a medical evacuation on Sao Jorge Island, Azores, a Portuguese Air Force Merlin caused injuries to 5 people when it unexpectedly climbed by 1 meter before the pilot recovered control. An Air Force spokesperson later stated that this kind of incident is unheard of. Specifications. Data from James All the World's Aircraft 2003 a Euro 2004, AgustaWestland, General Characteristics, Crew, 3 a Euro 4, Capacity, 26 troops or 5 tons of payload or 4 stretchers. Length, 19.53 am Fuselage length, rotor diameter, 18.59 am, height, 6.62 am, disk area, 271.51 mass squared, empty weight, 10,500 kg, max takeoff weight, 14,600 kg, power plant, 3 Rolls-Royce Turbo Mecha RTM 322-01 turbo shafts, 1,566 a kilowatt each, performance, never exceeds speed, 309 a kilometer per hour, cruise speed, 278 a kilometer per hour, range, 833 km, endurance, 5 hours, service ceiling, 4,575 am, armament, bombs, 4 Stingray homing torpedoes or depth charges, avionics, Smiths Industries OMI-20 SEP Dual Redundant Digital Automatic Flight Control System, Navigation Systems, BAE Systems LINS 300 Ring Laser Gyro, Litton Italia Lisa 4000 Strapdown AHRS. Radar, Silex Galileo Blue Kestrel 5000 Maritime Surveillance Radar. ECM, Racal Orange Reaper ESM. Sonar, Thomson Marconi Sonar AQS903 Acoustic Processor, Active Passive Sonobuoys, Thomson's Sintra Flash Dipping Sonar Array. Notable appearances in media. See also, European Defence Procurement, Related Development, AgustaWestland CH-149 Cormorant, Lockheed Martin VH-71 Kestrel, Aircraft of comparable role, configuration and era, Eurocopter EC-725, MIL-Me-17, MIL-Me-38, Sikorsky CH-148 Cyclone, Sikorsky S-92, related lists, list of helicopters, list of active United Kingdom military aircraft, references, citations. Bibliography. External links, AgustaWestland AW101 page, RAF Merlin HC3 page, EH101 Merlin on Portuguese Air Force official site, in English, Danish EH101 Merlin page.